letting out this fire tonight that's burning in my spirit. I'm gonna dance with all my might. I don't care who sees it. I'm gonna let it out. Be just like a child and say, I love you, Lord. I might make a scene tonight. I might come unraveled. I gotta get undignified, breaking off these shackles. I gotta let you out, be just like a child and say, I love you, Lord. I gotta say, I love you, Lord. I've got a love on fire. I've got a love on fire. The kind of love that won't burn out. I've got a love on fire. I've got a love on fire. The kind of love that won't back down. Not backing down. Praises like a raging flood pouring from my spirit. The deepest calling out to deep. Oh, my heart can feel it. I've gotta let you out. Be just like a child and say, I love you, Lord. I gotta say, I love you, Lord. I've got a love on fire. I've got a love on fire. The kind of love that won't burn out. I've got a love on fire. I've got a love on fire. The kind of love that won't back I put off all my heaviness and I put on this garment of praise. 'Cause you turn my mourning into dancing and you turn my night into day. I put off all my heaviness and I put on this garment of praise. 'Cause you turn my mourning into dancing and you turn my night into day. I put off all my heaviness and I put on this garment of praise. 'Cause you turn my morning into dancing and you turn my night into day. I put off all my heaviness and I put on
Hello and welcome to Kingdom in Context. Thank you for joining us here for our Sabbath Fellowship live stream. I'm Sean. I'm joined by my lovely wife, Lindsay.
Hey guys, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, sweetie.
Shabbat Shalom, babe.
And to everyone watching, I hope you have an enjoyable Sabbath, wonderful day of rest. This is our appointment time every week. That's part of our discipleship to Christ and to his Father. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful convenience in this modern life that we get to jump on the interweb and go through these streaming platforms and fellowship with all of you in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe not in person, but in a way.
It's definitely a blessing for those of us who are scattered without much options for in-person fellowship.
Yeah. We're excited that you guys are able to join us for these. So such a blessing. And we've been talking about Daniel, the book of Daniel.
Mhm.
I think we finished chapter 6 last week, so we're going to look at chapter 7 and 8, possibly get to 9. We'll see what happens. But it's just a lot of meaty stuff in these chapters.
Yes.
Daniel is not a book for newbies, in my opinion. But welcome everyone that's here. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves in the live chat. Moderators, as always, thank you for being here, for keeping live chat civil and loving, keeping the spam out. And we just appreciate all that you do. It's still going. It's still recording this for the replay. So just act.
Yeah, I'm gonna let everyone know in the chat we're here.
Tell them it'll be back on in 30 seconds or more.
Yeah. Stupid.
It won't show this. It won't show that black screen when it does the replay.
I know.
It's so weird to me. It's like you can get in trouble if I made like an AI rendition of that song.
Mm-hmm.
I would get in trouble.
Yeah.
For infringing upon whatever. We don't monetize these videos, but I already get copyright struck, and whatever ads they sell on top of this video, they share it with the band.
Yeah.
For whose music it is. So why can't I just go ahead and play the music? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's really weird to me. It's like,
frustrating.
Look, you're already getting the money anyway. You're just getting free promotion at this point. These record companies are just off the rockers, man.
It's wild. I have had tutorials that I've used literal copyright free music that's literally people to share are using their YouTube videos, and it'll be like 30 seconds of a beat that'll get a copyright. I'm like, what? It's ridiculous. I think we're back.
We are back.
Okay.
We are back.
Hey guys.
So we'll just jump into Daniel chapter 6, Daniel chapter 7.
Thanks for sticking around.
Okay. Verse 1, it says, in the first year of the reign of Belshazzar over Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions passed through his mind as he lay in his bed.
Can I ask you something real quick? It says, in the first year of the reign of Belshazzar. Isn't that the king that was just in the last chapter that was killed?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like going back in time from before.
Wait a minute. Let's find him.
I thought Belshazzar was the son of Nebuchadnezzar too.
That's right. Yeah. Is it not mentioned in 6? Oh. But yeah, it's Belshazzar's feast.
Okay, so this is the same Belshazzar.
It's just kind of like jumping back into his first year.
Okay.
So, because this is what we talked about when we read chapter 5. We were like, oh, there's clearly been a time jump.
Yeah.
Because they forgot about Daniel.
Right.
That's like West Plays, if you want to go ahead and make that Yatune song, because they forgot about Daniel. Instead of forgetting about Dre, they forgot about Daniel. Don't forget about Daniel. Anyway.
All right.
So in the first year of the reign of Belshazzar over Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions passed through his mind as he lay in his bed. He wrote down the dream, and this is the summary of his account. Daniel declared, in my vision in the night I looked, and suddenly the 4 winds of heaven were churning up the great sea. Then 4 great beasts came up out of the sea, each one different from the others. The first beast was like a lion, and it had the wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and given the mind of a man. Suddenly another beast appeared, which looked like a bear. It was raised up one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. So it was told, "Get up and gorge yourself on flesh." Next, as I watched, suddenly another beast appeared. It was like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. After this, I watched in my vision in the night. Suddenly a 4th beast appeared, and it was terrifying, dreadful, and extremely strong, with large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed, and then it trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the beasts before it, and had 10 horns. While I was contemplating the 10 horns, suddenly another horn, a little horn, came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. Then horns had this horn had eyes like those of a man, and a mouth that spoke words of arrogance. Verse 9, as I continued to watch, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. A fire of river was flowing, coming out from his presence. Thousands upon thousands attended him, and myriads upon myriads stood before him. The court was convened, and the books were opened. Then I kept watching because of the arrogant words the horn was speaking. As I continued to watch, the beast was slain, and its body was destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was removed, but they were granted an extension of life for a season and a time. In my vision in the night, I continued to watch, and I saw one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given dominion, glory, and kingship that the people of every nation and language should serve him. His dominion was an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, and visions in my mind alarmed me. I approached one of those who were standing there, and I asked him the true meaning of all this. So he told me the interpretation of these things. These 4 great beasts are 4 kings who will arise from the earth, but the saints of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. It's almost like he's talking to us now. Yes, I did say forever and ever. Then I wanted to know the true meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from all the others. Extremely terrifying, devouring and crushing with iron teeth and bronze claws, then trampling underfoot whatever was left. I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head and the other horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell. The horn whose appearance was more imposing than the others, with eyes and with a mouth that spoke words of arrogance. As I watched, this horn was waging war against the saints and prevailing against them, until the Ancient of Days arrived and pronounced judgment in favor of the saints of the Most High, and the time came for them to possess the kingdom. This is what he said. The 4th beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on the earth, different from all other kingdoms. It will devour the whole earth, trample it down, and crush it. And the 10 horns are 10 kings who will rise from this kingdom. After them, another king, different from the earlier ones, will rise and subdue 3 kings. He will speak out against the Most High and oppress the saints of the Most High, intending to change the appointed times and laws, and the saints will be given into his hand for a time and times and half a time. But the court will convene, and dominion will be taken away and completely destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, dominion, and greatness of the kingdoms under all of heaven will be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom will rule, and his kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will serve and obey him. Thus ends the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts troubled me greatly, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot here.
Yeah.
So, guys, just as a preface, we are going to do our best to provide a fairly thorough but quick summary of chapter 7. I know that this particular chapter, there's been books and books written on this particular chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, this is not going to be a high-level PhD in-depth theological breakdown of chapter 7, but you're welcome to contribute as much as you would like in the live chat or in the comment section with your thoughts. But ultimately, we'll do our best to review the information and provide a summary. So, any first thoughts for you, sweetie?
Can you scroll down a little?
Yeah.
No, I think I'm very confused by many parts of the vision. I don't know what they apply to. I'm not very familiar with what's it called? Historists?
The history. Yeah.
Not history. Historists. Isn't it like an approach to hermeneutics and thinking that all this stuff has been being fulfilled over time? Yeah, historicism. Yeah. So I'm not familiar with
historicism. Is like it's like a stepbrother to preterism.
Yes, I understand that. Like, I know that they've got explanations for the horses of Revelation already. Like, one of them is supposedly communism. Like, there's some interesting thoughts there, but I've never looked into it really. So I feel like, maybe some people have looked over history and seen some of these beasts already. I feel like the fourth beast is obviously like the end times beast.
Because of the time qualifiers it gives you,
Yeah.
because of its destruction it gives you.
Yeah. So the three beasts that came before it, are we assuming that those are prior empires
Right.
that already existed and fell? Okay.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people will attribute the leopard to Alexander the Great.
Okay.
But we can try to review some of this stuff as far as the interpretation goes. The little horn, there's
Yeah.
another horn that comes up, a little one. This is going to be mentioned, I believe, later as well. And I think it's chapter 11 as well. So there's recurring themes as far as these visions. He keeps getting like complementary visions to this initial vision later in later chapters. A lot of people have tried to say the fourth beast is the Roman Empire because they were so successful in establishing their empire on top of Greece, Alexander's work. But they still didn't conquer the whole world. So that's the issue that comes up with this idea. And then other people have tried to say, oh, well, it's actually the British Empire in 1200 to 1600s, and they had the most amazing naval fleet, and they went all the way to China and Japan, and they had ports everywhere, but they didn't conquer those people. They just had a system of trade established with them.
Yeah, they essentially did the colony thing.
They tried to colonize in certain places, but they just colonized Hong Kong, not the whole of China.
Sure. Yeah. No.
So
that's what
difference.
I'm saying. Like it's colonies as opposed to actually nation conquering.
They didn't colonize Micronesia. They didn't colonize India. They tried to just have extreme trade relations, which did allow them to have some sense of influence in their policies, but they did not control the armies of India. They did not control the armies of China. They did not control the armies of all the nations in the Congo and Africa and, all those things. So there's been a lot of, like I've said at the beginning of this, there's been tons of books written trying to interpret all these concepts and what people think. Through what we teach on the channel, and I would say the fourth beast is the one that comes up out of the earth. It is the one that comes up out of the Revelation 9, the beast that was given authority to rule, but Apollyon. Yeah. And that's why it says that there's a little horn involved in this, which is also in later chapters associated with Apollyon. It does try to destroy everybody. But let's go to the interpretation real quick. We'll come back to these descriptions of the Father and Son.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the vision, as he tries to get it interpreted for him, it says these four beasts are four kings who will arise from the earth. And this is something that a lot of people forget because they just think, oh, it's talking about kingdoms.
Yeah.
And they say these aren't, but no, it's actually four kings. And people look over this aspect because they just go to verse 24, 25. And these are some of the more famous passages people like to quote and throw around. But it introduces the great four beasts as four kings. Yes, a king is over a kingdom. So it's synonymous.
Sure.
When it begins to talk about the kingdoms, it's also talking about a person, right? So, but here's the interesting part. The saints of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it forever. So it's interesting that before it gives you the full interpretation, it says, oh, these are four kings who will rise from the earth, but they're not going to be here forever because the people that are here forever will be the saints of the Most High, who receive the kingdom and possess it forever. So we already have time qualifiers for this statement, which is the first resurrection and the second coming of Christ, right? So this is a part where I always try to remind people, when you study the gospel of the kingdom and the first resurrection, it helps you in so many other places of scripture.
Yeah.
Because now you see, oh, when are they going to possess it forever? Oh, we know when this happens.
Yeah.
Right. So then that means here is a hard and fast, hard line qualifier. And then everything must be before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. And then he goes, I want to know the true meaning of the beasts, including the fourth one. And the fourth one is associated with that little horn, right? So as you watch, this horn was waging war against the saints and prevailing against them. Now,
that's a time qualifier.
It is, yeah. Now, some people say, well, didn't Antiochus Epiphanes in the 2nd century BC do this as well? This is the story of the Maccabees, right? Antiochus IV. He did wage war against, quote unquote, the saints, but so did Rome.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
Right after, in the very next verse, in the same sentence, it's giving another time qualifier of until the Ancient of Days arrived and pronounced judgment.
Yes. And this is another thing we have to remind people, that the second coming of Christ is not just Christ.
Yeah.
His Father is coming.
Yeah.
This is the part people seem to forget.
Yeah.
They don't call it the first coming of Yahweh, which they could. They just call it the second coming of Christ.
Right.
Because this is what's prophesied in Jude chapter 1, verse 14, when it's quoting first Enoch, talking about the Most High will descend to the earth with his myriads and myriads of angels to rout the godless
Yeah.
for their godless deeds. Now he does that through his Son and through his angels, but the Father's house is coming down too, right?
Yeah.
It is the first coming of the first arrival and permanent tabernacling of the Father's house, right? So that's why it is aptly correct that Daniel can prophesy after he already just explained to you who the Ancient of Days is
Right.
and how he's different from the Son of Man.
Right.
And he's the one, the Ancient of Days is the one who gives the Son of Man his dominion and kingship and glory
Right.
over every nation, right? So it's Father and Son are showing up, just like First Enoch 105 says. When Yahweh and his Son will dwell on earth amongst man. Okay, this is the coming of the Lord, right? Not just the Son, the Lord, but also the Father, who's the greater Lord, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting also that this fourth beast, it's like reiterating multiple times that this beast is not like any of the others that came before it. So
That's
there's
right.
something uniquely wicked about this one.
That's right.
And it also talking about him waging war against the saints and prevailing against them. And I kind of feel like the enemy has always waged war against the saints. Like we're always like persecution is typically part of the walk. But it's never been described as prevailing against us throughout that time.
Yeah, it's not described in that way. You're right.
Because he's not doing. I mean, he can try to take as many of us out as he can, but he can't seem to overcome the power of the Spirit, bringing more and more into the fold as he tries to take more and more out of the earth.
Yeah, and this is actually something that we have in the Book of Maccabees, the concept of how Antiochus IV tried to persecute the people in Judea at the time. And we see that there was war, and I think there was like 20,000 Judeans that were killed by the Greeks during that time, which is a lot, right? But they were in a battle of war. It wasn't just like they were rounded up and suffered in martyrdom.
Yeah.
They were actually fighting with armed forces.
Yeah.
Now, in the conquest of Rome, and then we get into the 1st and 2nd century and the Christian martyrdom there, Christians being burned at the stake and thrown to the lions in the Colosseum, historians claim that while it was horrific, it was several thousand.
Yeah,
right?
It wasn't like millions.
Right. They claim that the population of the Roman Empire that was Christian was 10%, which is, they claim that the Roman Empire was 60 million people.
Wow.
And that means there was approximately 6 million. Now, we're not talking about 20th century Jews, right? 6 million Christians were martyred. So not martyred. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
6 million supposedly, according to historians, during the times of persecution in the Roman Empire, 6 million Christians existed within the scattered Roman Empire of all the different nations. And supposedly several thousand of them were martyred, many publicly and gruesomely. But it wasn't even as bad as other martyrdoms throughout history.
No, I think there's been probably larger massacres and genocides since
20th
then.
century Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bolsheviks were wild. The Armenian genocide with the Young Turks was wild. And those are just the ones that are like recorded for us. You know, how many have happened that just aren't, that they're just lost to history.
Supposedly, I mean, this is why the church is considered underground in modern day China, because they're constantly under persecution and just being disappeared.
Yeah.
So we don't even know the numbers on those types of things. But just as far as what historians might say, and it's an interesting point of note that Tertullian writes in some of his writings that he's actually addressing the unfairness of the Roman system at the time while they're going through persecution, because he lived during that time period. And so he's in one of his writings, I think it's not against Praxis. I think it's called Ad Nations, or basically on the nations. He's talking about the people of the nations and how they were morally defunct compared to Christians, and how they were less supportive of civility and less moral and less virtuous, and that Christianity and Christians were striving not only to be moral and virtuous as a people, but also were actually praying for the emperor and the welfare of the empire And it's not fair that we're being unfairly persecuted without
Yeah.
proper trial.
Yeah.
And so he's actually trying to address this in his day. And it's fascinating,
Hmm.
fascinating writings. But that just gives you this idea that there was persecution going on, not through the system of lawfare, but through actual just unrighteous persecution,
Right.
right? That was happening in Rome. But the Ancient of Days did not arrive
No.
and stop it.
Yeah. Well, and by the 300s, we have then the unholy marriage of government and religion, you know, and so once that happened, that's not to say that persecution stopped. There's just different kinds of persecutions that morphed over the years and parts of the church persecuting other parts of the church, basically.
Right.
But yeah, so then Christianity became a world superpower over time. So in terms of that, in terms of this beast prevailing over the saints while he's making war with them, we can argue there's, obviously war being made against the saints in terms of Satan absolutely got his hands in parts of the church with doctrine and all of that, all the bad behavior he inspired within
just
leadership.
As he did inside the
just
Levites,
as he does with
Israel.
just as he tries to do with everything. But that's not prevailing over the saints in this context.
No. And so we've got some qualifiers. Not only does the Father and Son show up to stop this particular aggression of the fourth kingdom, the fourth beast, and he is different from all the other kingdoms and devours the whole earth, trample it down and crush it. This is also synonymous with Revelation 13, verses 7 through 10.
Okay.
That he is not only the one who's given the authority of the dragon to go out and persecute all nations, tribes, tongues, and languages, not just within the Roman Empire, not just Judea.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? This is all, he goes out to oppress all of them. And from him, these 10 kings rise up from within this kingdom. Now, that didn't happen in the Roman Empire during the days of persecution either.
No.
That didn't happen. Personally, I don't see that happening within the Orthodox or the Roman Catholic systems. I know a lot of people like to say the fourth beast is the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. Yeah, it's a very popular interpretation.
Yeah, it doesn't, with what we've just described about what, the Catholic Church has done over the last 2,000 years, it doesn't fit the description.
Yeah.
Apollyon is not Satan. Apollyon is Nimrod, right?
Right.
Okay.
Apollyon is...
So Nimrod is basically the Antichrist and Satan is the beast?
No. The beast is synonymous with the Antichrist.
Okay. And the beast is given power from the dragon.
That's right. The dragon is synonymous with Satan.
Okay.
And the second beast is third on the totem pole, so to speak, right? He works under the authority of the first beast. The first beast works under the authority of Satan.
Okay. So Apollyon, Nimrod, is going to have some...
He's the one
that's under him?
Yeah, the second beast.
Okay. Right? The second beast will be under Nimrod.
Right.
And Nimrod's the first beast. Okay.
So Nergal works for the fame and idolatrous worship of Nimrod.
Okay.
Right. That's why he builds the image that forces people to worship that image or they get killed.
Okay.
The image is of the first beast, not the second beast. So the image is of the first beast. So, all right.
Sorry.
You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try not to spit up on the mic.
There's some other qualifiers here that we see, and one of them is listed here.
Okay.
And this is a synonymous term that you see in Scripture for times, and half a time. We see that in Revelation. It's also synonymous in Revelation, giving us actual numerical indication instead of this idiomatic indication. It gives us the 42 months.
Okay.
Okay. So this is why it says the saints will be given to his hand for 42 months. And that is exactly the reign of the first beast in Revelation.
Okay.
Apollyon. Okay. 42 months. So this is why I named it the 42 series.
Yes. Okay. I know that.
Okay. So also in Revelation 13, it talks about the first beast speaking out against the Most High and the tabernacle in heaven. So this qualifier is only given to the fourth beast in Daniel 7 and Revelation 13.
Okay.
It's never been spoken of against, what we would conclude to be Alexander the Great or Caesar.
There's today, with atheism, all kinds of people everywhere speak out against the Most High in terms of
this is going to be
rejecting him. That's what I'm saying. This is clearly different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be something egregious because he also does the line, sign, and wonder through the second beast to cause fire to come down from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, 2 Thessalonians 2, we believe it's speaking of the lawless one that Christ destroys at his coming.
Right.
Also, to which it says that he sets himself up in the temple and declares himself to be God. Now we know the Caesars thought themselves as a god, but they had a pantheon that they still were in the hierarchy
they
of.
didn't think they were like the creator of all things.
None of them claimed to be Jupiter or Zeus.
Yeah.
They knew better, right? So this guy is the one they've been worshiping this whole time.
Yeah.
And that's why he sets himself up to be the god.
Okay.
Right? Or claims to be, which doing so in a temple with a false ordination of the temple, with fire coming down out of heaven to do false sacrifices and actually do a false, he's playing church to the nth degree.
Yeah.
He's going to be speaking against the tabernacle in heaven. That's why Revelation 13, there's no other bad guy in the Bible that says he is speaking against the tabernacle in heaven.
Yeah.
Like that's the Father's house.
Yeah.
Right? He's speaking against the Most High and meanwhile killing his children.
Yeah.
Like this is egregious, right? So this is where Yahweh's like, here I come.
Yeah, time's up.
All right, you rang that bell loud enough and I'm coming down. So the court will convene. His dominion will be taken away forever and completely destroyed forever. Another indicator that we don't believe that this is Greece. Because even after after Alexander the Great was killed or died of sickness, his 4 generals took over and his dominion and kingdom was split up, but still was considered, the Seleucids were still considered part of Greece until the Romans took over. Right. And then, what if we tried to turn this into the Romans and their persecution of the saints? Well, their dominion wasn't taken away forever. They didn't lose their dominion of
they absorbed themselves into the
6th century. Yeah, I'm just saying, like they had 2 different East and West Rome for up until like long time. You know? And still even today, some would say, as all nations go to kiss the Pope's ring.
Yeah.
So like there is a, this has not happened in our observable history.
Right.
Okay. Then the sovereignty, dominion, and greatness of the kingdoms under all of heaven will be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. That is another hardline qualifier.
Yeah.
Right. There is no more, oh my goodness, China's on the rise.
Yeah.
There is no more, America's a superpower. There is no more, why do all these people go kiss the Pope's ring and bow down at the Vatican to him? Like this, there's no more of that. Christ is ruling on the earth, and all nations will still be considered a nation, but they are under his rule. They're all going to go kiss his ring. Christ's ring. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will serve and obey him. So this is the part where it's like, it just destroys Satan's little season. It destroys preterism. It destroys amillennialism.
Yeah.
It's just, these are hardline qualifiers for these types of events. And you would have to just ignore these words or redefine all these words in these descriptions in order for preterism to be legit, in order for Satan's little season to be even considered worthy of anything, which it should not be. Like these are hardline.
Yeah, there are very clear time qualifiers going on.
The Father's house shows up. The Son is there. He's ruling over all nations. This never changes once this happens. I know.
It's just wild how we started this channel with this concept of the tree, the context tree.
Yeah.
And we put the branches on and we're like, are these the topics? We can add branches if we need to. We've never had to add another branch. And the more I go through scripture with you, babe, especially in these middle books with these kinds of prophecies in them that are so deeply misunderstood, going through these chapters with you and having the understanding of, the basics on the tree, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can see. Like we went through it the first time, and I studied this book with you 2-3 months ago, and I've already I've moved on to the next whatever book I'm reading, and we read it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's all that about? But then we go through it slowly, we break it down, we look at these branches of the tree in different places, and it's like, okay, that kind of brings it all back into perspective for me. So it's just a blessing.
I want to be like, just in case anyone has a really, really good memory and has been following us since the beginning, I want to be specific. Okay. I know you're speaking generally, but within the first 4 or 5 months of us creating the channel and starting and showing people the context tree, I did add a new branch.
Oh, so okay.
It's not that I added it. I just augmented
I thought you split 1 into 2.
Let me explain real quick. The timeline branch I took away and replaced with agency. because I
Oh.
started to quickly realize about how big this Trinity topic was and how the concept of agency dispels it and it needs to be talked about. And so I decided to add it as a, and the concept of the timeline branch, I thought, you know what, that's kind of like, I'll be reviewing timelines within every branch
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So that's kind of unnecessary. So there was a spot open, if you will, and agency fell in within the first 4 or 5 months, because that was when we immediately started getting, demonized by Trinitarians at NICTV
Right.
for not agreeing with their nonsense that they can't explain.
Yeah.
So
And actually, having the knowledge of all the other branches helps with the timeline as you're
Yeah.
reading through, because you can see the time qualifiers. You're like,
Yes.
oh, that's what this means. That's what that means.
Yes. Yep. So that's why when you start to read things like this, you start to realize, oh, wait a minute, there's a hard and fast line of when the Father's house comes down, when the Son returns. This was never going to change.
Yeah.
It's never going away. And all this language is expressing that this last kingdom, this last beast, will do this horrific stuff and be stopped by the Ancient of Days.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And this is the part I can't seem to get people to really grasp.
Yeah.
Like, the Father is so humble. He is saying, I'm coming down, but like he allows all the spotlight focus to be on his Son and the angels that
Yeah.
come down and take care of that, do all the dirty work.
Yeah.
Right? They do all the business. Whereas the Father is just slowly coming down in his house. And I think that this is a part that the average person doesn't realize, like, how big of a deal this is, that the creator of heaven and earth is going to forever come live down here with us.
Yeah.
He's going to tabernacle on the earth with us forever. It's going to be interesting because the scriptures that talk about him existing before this event will still have the scriptures in Deuteronomy and Psalms that are going to talk about how he used to be in the heavens of heavens.
Yeah.
He used to be at the top of the firmament. So in the millennial reign, we'll get to explain, this was before Ezekiel 37 was fulfilled.
Yeah.
And he actually decided, I'm going to tabernacle on the earth forever. And that's his big house you're staring at over there. Before this wasn't here, so like it's going to be a fascinating perspective, if you will, in my opinion, that we're going to be teaching these fresh minds in the days of the millennial reign. So we got the description of the Father and Son, and this is another one that I think is very interesting to me, because people talk about the terminology of the Son of Man.
Mm-hmm.
And they will say, well, this is, for one, I do believe this is a Jesus Christ, the Son of God, Yeshua of Nazareth, the one sent from heaven, God's Son, he sent to the earth, John 3:16. I do believe that's speaking of him, but it's in the context of him coming with the clouds of heaven, like Christ prophesied also in Matthew 24:29-31, at his second coming. Okay. So Daniel is prophesying about the second coming, not the first.
Right.
A lot of the Old Testament prophets did this.
Yeah.
They talked about the second coming, not the first. And that's wild. That is wild. And so I can understand. I mean, you have to kind of dig deep, right? Isaiah does have a lot of first coming prophecies. And you kind of have to dig deep, if you will, with some of this. But I can understand why people in the first century would be confused and would be thinking that anyone that's claiming to be the true Messiah that's coming down out of heaven would be fulfilling these second coming prophecies in their presence.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless they had a good study of the actual scriptures and this, but if that kind of stuff is not readily available for the average person to study, and they're just getting the interpretation through the rabbis once a week, if that, by the time they get around to that scroll again,
they're definitely at a
synagogue,
disadvantage.
It's like the days of the Latin medieval Catholic and Orthodox Church, where they just read what they wanted the people to hear and with their own interpretations of it. And so you get a lot of bad information, unstudied believers, right? That don't have the opportunity to be Bereans at all times. And so this is interesting, how I can understand how Judaism is easily confused, right? Because it does take study to know the places that talk about his first coming, right?
Yeah, and their hyperfixation on the first 5 books and getting their halakha all through their oral Torah.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have much reason to be in these books very often, really. I mean, the rabbi that you talked to all those years ago, I mean, he just, talked about the major and minor prophets like,
Yeah.
Oh, Malachi says what? Oh, that's just Malachi. It's like, what?
Yeah, he said they were up for interpretation, and they weren't to be considered serious. Like
And
even
they're
Isaiah.
not Torah. Oh,
Right.
they're not Torah. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty egregious in my opinion. I was like, this is weird, man. But I was getting my first dose of true rabbinic Judaism and how they have their own biases.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because immediately right off the bat, the Son of Man that's being referenced here, he approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence.
You know, it's like the Trinitarians who freak out about you using this to be like, there's a description of the Father right here sitting on a throne. It's like it's amazing how they'll want to take just those descriptions of the Father and say, oh, that's all just poetic. But then the rest of the passage is really showing a scene in heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's really Yeshua. Oh, yeah, he's really walking over to this throne and, you know, there's scrolls involved, there's books. Yeah, oh, yeah, that stuff's real. But the descriptions of the Father, no, those few words out of a rest of the passage that we take literally, those aren't literal. It's just wild.
Yes. So here's the Ancient of Days. 9 through 11 is the Ancient of Days passage, right? That's the one he's walking up to.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you that thrones were set in place.
Yeah.
Okay. Multiples.
Yeah.
Because we got the 24 elders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ancient of Days took his seat.
Yeah.
So this is where you have people like, you know, Dr. I'm going blank on his name right now. Dr. Michael Heiser would be talking about the heavenly council, basically, right? Because that's the idea.
Yeah.
His clothing was white as snow. His hair was head like pure wool. So suddenly, are these other thrones some sort of analogy that's a metaphor that doesn't have any real relation to reality?
Yeah.
All this stuff they say is just, oh, that's just anthropomorphism. It's not real. They'll try to say he's not really, doesn't really have a seat in heaven, doesn't really have a presence. And if they do, like some of them have actually said, oh yeah, there is a tabernacle in heaven, which is where the Ark of the Covenant is. There is a seat for him, but there's no one there. And you're like, what in the world? Your philosophy has reduced your view of the creator of heaven and earth to being non-existent. It is insane.
I can't help it, and this is like a real throwback, and there's probably not a lot of people out there who will even get the reference, but every time I see you having that conversation with someone, I think about the episode of Futurama where Bender ends up like flung out into space and he's just floating and he meets God, and God is just this big cloud that's got some lights that, you know, that get brighter when he talks. And that's God. And I'm like, that is their God. That is what that, like, what else can he be? He's got to just be some big cloud of nothing somewhere. Like
it is.
He's just a big hive mind, a big energy mind somewhere that nobody can truly see.
It is the Gnostic supreme deity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
And they hate that when you mention that, but this is what Gnosticism declares.
Yeah.
That their supreme God, who then sent the demiurge to create all things, who's outside of time and space and outside of the creation, is incorporeal, immaterial, but yet is an energy essence.
Yeah.
It's a Gnostic supreme God. It is not a biblical God that they're describing. They've just been deceived by philosophy. They hate when you bring that up, but his throne was like flaming with fire. Its wheels were all ablaze. This is where I would suggest this is the same thing with Ezekiel, the Ophanim,
all ablaze,
right?
Yeah.
The ones that actually carry his seat. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from his presence. I don't even know what that means. It's very similar to what we see in the description in 1 Enoch chapter 70, I believe, where it talks about his throne. There was the floor was tessellated crystal that looked like a river of fire.
Yeah.
So if that's synonymous, since we're in his presence and at his seat, then that could be the same thing. That there's this incredible, and it's tessellated crystal, but it looks like a river of fire because of the light flowing across of it, and it's so shiny.
I could see that in the same way Ezekiel, how you figured out it's not literal eyes, it's shining, it's the light coming off of the beings.
It's the Hebrew word ayin.
But it's like it says right there, his presence.
His presence, yeah.
So it's like
coming out from his presence. It's a real seat. It's a real heavenly Father that sits on a seat. His presence, and they attended to him. How can you attend to something that's incorporeal?
Yeah.
How can you stand before something that's not there?
Yeah. What even is the point?
And then he speaks. He speaks.
It's just so wild
Like,
for him to create mankind who then mirrors all these things, about his characteristics in heaven, one of which is thrones that kings sit on,
right, right.
And but oh no, but God doesn't really need a throne. I mean, he doesn't really need that. It's great. I mean, meals, how we share meals and food is like this universal language, and breaking bread together is like this universal language of peace and fellowship but God doesn't do any of that. I mean, he doesn't enjoy having meals with anybody. That's just weird. It's like, where do we get all our traits from?
We're made in his image and likeness.
I mean, why do humans gravitate towards all these tendencies, like having thrones and writing books and making law and sharing meals? It's just wild.
Are we made in his likeness or not? Am I able to sit down on a seat and have clothing and have hair? Are we made in his likeness or not? It's just, these are the clear words of scripture, but men will come along, usually very nasty men, will come along and will say, no, you can't believe that. You must believe something else.
Why? Because my rules of philosophy do not allow you to believe that. And then they wonder why we say philosophy is a problem, guys.
Yeah.
Philosophy's evil. It's a problem. It is causing a serious problem with how people are reading the words of this book.
Just like any hobby, it's fine until it decides it causes your discipleship to change and it causes you to read the Bible with lenses that are not biblical.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
It becomes evil. It becomes a stumbling block.
Yeah.
So then I watched because the arrogant words of the horn was speaking. And as I continued to watch, the beast was slain. His body was destroyed and thrown in the blaze of fire. This is Revelation 19.
Yeah.
This is, there's.
Oh, the blazing fire is the lake of fire.
That's right.
Oh, that's because it's
next to the throne.
Because it's in there. Yes. It's inside. Yeah. Gosh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was removed, but they were granted an extension of life for a season at a time. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that means.
Their dominion was.
I know what their dominion was removed means.
Like their power was taken, but they were
granted an extension for life for a season at a time.
So part of me was wondering if this is just referring to the nations, because we know that nations exist in the kingdom. So it's like, it doesn't seem like everybody's just going to be absorbed and call themselves Israel at that point. It seems like there's going to be some sort of national identity for these people, because they're going to be in the same position we are, where they're grafting in and not being born of the Spirit and resurrected at the same time as we are. So it makes sense that they would still, just like we still have national identities from where we all were born and citizenships of the countries we were born into, but then we are also followers of Yahweh and grafted into his nation. So that's kind of all. This is actually the last verse I wanted to talk about if we're ready to move on, because I was kind of like, I wonder if that's just talking about the fact that there's going to still be nations under the reign of Christ.
Yes, of course. Yes,
okay.
There will be. Yeah. This is why it says every nation, tribe, and tongue will serve him.
Yeah.
And the prophecies about the millennial reign. But as far as, so to me, what it seems to be saying from the introduction of the four beasts, the fourth beast is stopped at the coming of the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man. But the rest of the beasts, it talks about them as if they're somehow still involved in this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
This is where it gets kind of a little tricky. Their dominion was removed. I thought the fourth beast took over everybody's dominion.
Do you want to switch over to the Septuagint real quick? Just out of curiosity?
Okay, sure.
I just know that chapter 9 reads so differently in the Septuagint. I don't know. Maybe that verse, let's see if that verse reads the same or maybe a little differently.
Okay.
What?
It's right here, verse 12.
Okay.
And the dominion of the rest of the wild beasts was taken away, but a prolonging of life was given them for certain times. So I don't know if this is just simply clearing up. So let me say it like this. There's four beasts introduced, okay? After it introduces the four beasts and gives you a small description of them, then it focuses the bulk of its description or the bulk of its eschatological prophecy leading up to the second coming about the fourth beast.
Yeah.
And never gave you any conclusion about the other three.
True. It doesn't. So it's not like the statue.
Is it possible that verse 12 is just simply going back to say, oh, by the way, the rest of the wild beasts dominion were taken away, but they were given a prolonging of life was given to them for certain times or for a season at a time, right? Just for a short while, basically. Meaning these other kingdoms, like because I could definitely see that with Alexander the Great and his 4 generals who took over afterwards were given a prolonged period of time.
True.
Until then the Romans came, right? But it was still considered. We still talk about Alexander the Great today. We don't talk about his 4 generals, but yet his 4 generals tried to maintain some sense of the Greek empire that they had established, but couldn't. So the other people would think about the other wild beasts. Okay, so we got the bear. Where'd he go?
The lioness,
the bear, and then the leopard. So some people think about, some people think the bear would be like the Persian Empire, right? Which was also leading up to the days of Alexander the Great taking over the Babylonian Empire from the Persians.
People don't think Russia is the bear.
Well, again, 1,000 books are written on this chapter.
Bear-like.
Yeah, they'll say, "Oh, but the bear is considered with Russia, so it must be Russia." But I'm sitting there going, "Okay, well,
according to who?
One of the 5th largest economy in the world has a bear on its flag. It's the state of California."
Yeah, well, it's hard to go off of modern symbols for countries because our countries didn't exist when all this stuff was written. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that could be part of the prophecy. Right. I mean, it's very hard not to look at the eagle symbolism in certain books and chapters and think, gosh, that sounds like America, you know? So, but I mean, we don't know for sure.
So there's a lot here. Now the lion and the eagle, this is synonymous with the lion with the eagle's wings. This is synonymous with ancient Assyria.
Okay.
Babylonian Empire. They would have these, what are they called? Aerials.
Yeah.
They would have this depiction. It was of Nergal, the god of war of the ancient Babylon. He had it was a lion with eagle's wings.
Did the Sphinx have wings?
No. Okay. So this is where people have come into these conclusions that it's possibly talking about the Babylonian Empire taken over by the Persians, who's the bear, and then taken over by Alexander the Great, who's the leopard with wings, because he had 4 heads, which represents the 4 generals that took over. So this is how people try to interpret this type of stuff. And the wings on the leopard, a leopard is already fast, by the way.
Yeah.
But then the wings on the leopard makes it even faster. And so this is what was supposedly so historically astounding about Alexander the Great was that he took over the empire very, very, very quickly, quicker than any other nation had ever done. So he took over all the Babylonian provinces through warfare from Britain to India within like a short amount of time before he was like 28 or 29 years old. So this is considered militarily in history an amazing feat.
Okay.
Okay. And that's why people will try to interpret him as the leopard who moves fast and has wings, right?
Yeah.
And has 4 heads as the 4 generals took over after him. So that's where that interpretation usually comes from with this. And then you have this unique something that's not there anymore. You don't have all the rulers in between now and then are not being talked about. So this is.
Yeah. Well, I'm also starting to kind of realize that in the description of the 4 beasts, it's not like in the description of the statue where it's literally saying this kingdom will come and then it will fall and then it will be replaced by this kingdom. Right. And then, so it's not giving us a timeline of the rise and fall of these other 3 beasts. It sounds like these 3 beasts are still around at the time of the coming of the Ancient of Days.
That's what I was just trying to explain.
So it sounds like they're modern kingdoms, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to explain. I get it. And if that's so, I have no clue. I wouldn't even begin to know who to interpret as a leopard with wings and 4 heads in modernity.
Yeah.
That's not the G8 Council. That's not the United States. That's not the British. That's not, the UAE. That's nobody. I don't even know how to interpret, because the whole concept of the heads is rulership. That's why each head represents a king.
Yeah, and aren't horns actual physical rulers?
Also a ruler. Yeah, the idea of a horn is also a ruler. So the point is, what I'm getting at is it possible that verse 12 is just by the way, here's what happened to the rest of the beasts?
Oh, in hindsight?
We just spent so much time on the 4th beast. I don't want you to leave you hanging on the other 3 beasts. Their dominion was taken away, but they were given a little prolonged life after their dominion was taken away. Versus the judgment of the 4th beast was he's thrown in the lake of fire at the coming of the Creator.
Yeah, his judgment, not only is his rule completely different than those who came before him, his judgment is different than those who came before him.
Versus their dominion was taken away, not because the second coming of Christ showed up, but because there was a transition of power and they slowly fell out of power.
That could be.
That could be. So that's all I'm saying.
Do you know if when in the various studies that you've seen about fulfillment of prophecy through empires over time, has anyone ever looked into uh, empires like Genghis Khan, for example? I mean, because he's
Again,
pretty significant,
Yeah.
in terms of how quickly he was able to take over things and his version of warfare and I mean, he had the largest empire of anyone
Mhm.
in the history of mankind at this point.
I feel like if it was prophesying about Genghis Khan, instead of, oh, they were terrifying and they destroyed everybody like the bear, right? Who was devouring and gorging the earth. It
Mhm.
would have been like he was impregnating the whole earth if it was Genghis Khan.
I'm just saying, I'm just curious because I feel like it seems like the same few empires that are always discussed, but I'm like, there were other empires from other races that are
Yeah.
never, as far as we know, not mentioned in scripture, or maybe they are, and people just haven't made connections because they've always been focused on Assyria, Babylon, Egypt,
There's other mention in other
Rome.
prophecies. In other prophecies, there's other places that people assume to be the Russian Empire or the British Empire
Or like the Mongolians or
the-
the Chinese or the
Mhm.
Indian.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. In Revelation and other places where they talk about the kings of the east that come across the Euphrates.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
But
assumed.
in these ones in particular, I'm talking about.
In this particular, no.
Do you know they don't ever go outside of?
That's why the majority interpretations of these particular ones, it reigns from the days of Daniel and the Babylonian Empire up to Alexander's empire for the Greeks before the Romans took over. And then they'll try to say this last kingdom was the Roman Empire that took over, which is still around today.
Okay.
Okay. So that's how many historians who interpret Daniel 7 from a modern mainstream Christian amillennial view, right? These are men that do not believe in a hard and fast line where the Father's house
Yeah.
comes down to the
Yeah.
earth. They think we're slowly building the kingdom on earth
Okay.
because Jesus showed up.
Yeah.
So from their interpretation, which is the most popular scholarly Christian interpretations, they believe this vision is covering the time of Daniel's life from the empire that he's a part of, which is the Babylonian Empire, leading into the Persians who took over later after him, which he's technically at this point already, he hasn't, like, if this is Belshazzar, remember, the son of Nebuchadnezzar II, remember, who takes over after him? We read that in chapter 6. Remember, they came in. It was
Yes.
the Medes and Persians came in.
Yeah.
So then, and then Darius takes over, right?
Mhm.
So then there was the Persian reign over the Babylonian Empire for a while. So that's why people will interpret to be the first beast was the Persians, the first beast was the Babylonians, second was the Persians, third was Alexander the Great, and then they think it's the Romans that took over.
Okay.
Okay, and I have struggled with that though because I see that the Roman Empire doesn't suffer the fate.
Fulfill.
It doesn't
Yeah,
fulfill
it
these
doesn't
words and
fulfill
doesn't suffer the
these-
fate of this
yeah.
fourth kingdom.
Yeah.
Right. And so they'll say, oh, because it's still around today. And they'll say that when the Antichrist shows up, he's going to be a part of what they call the revived Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire is going to come back. And they've talked about, there's been so many interpretations throughout the years as far as they think it's going to be, oh, it's Prince Charles. And because really the Brits are just the extension of the Roman Empire. And this is, you
I've
should
seen
research the
whole
history of
breakdowns
London.
on
And
their coat of arms.
yes. And then they'll say that it's the Turkey president of Turkey.
Yes,
modern-day
I've
Turkey.
seen that one.
They'll say he's
Yeah.
going to be the fourth beast that rises. And he's, because he's still a part of the ancient Roman Empire and all this stuff.
Is it still Erdogan? Or is it a different guy now?
I think it's a different
totally
guy.
forgot that they thought Erdogan was the Antichrist for a while.
And some people will say it's Putin. Some people will say it's Israel. Some people some people say if America is the new Roman Empire, and it's just
close.
So yeah, there's a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
That they'll say over and over that but again, none of these, they're ignoring the comparative or the cross-reference prophecies of Revelation, where it gives you all these clear descriptors of who this fourth and last kingdom and beast is going to be, whom Christ destroys, it is coming. Right. So we have multiple prophecies that talk about Christ destroys somebody when he shows up, not just in chapter 7, but in Revelation 13 through 19, 2 Thessalonians 2, a whole bunch of other places. Christ himself fights somebody when he shows up.
Yeah.
I would even say it's also in, alluded to in Malachi chapter 3, or no, excuse me, Habakkuk chapter 3, I think it's verse 14, where it talks about the Messiah is going to destroy the head of the house of evil and flame open from thigh to neck, right? So like there's a lot of prophecies about him. And also talking about Isaiah, about the Assyrian, about them when the Messiah shows up, the anointed one of Yahweh shows up, he destroys the Assyrian, right? Nimrod was the Assyrian. Okay. So there's a lot of this. There's a lot of this multiple prophecies that point to a specific person named Nimrod, whom was called Apollyon and Apollo, whom then comes up out of the ground by name in Revelation 9 and is the one who's called the first beast in Revelation 13, whom is also called the first beast in or the beast that comes up out of the ground in chapter 11 and chapter 17, whom in chapter 17, 10 kings give their authority to him.
Oh, right.
Just like this prophecy here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And he's the one who fights Christ in Revelation 19.
Yeah.
And is thrown in the lake of fire.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a ton of correlating prophecies about this fourth kingdom is not the revived Roman Empire. It's not Prince Charles. My goodness. No, it's not Prince Charles and his crooked teeth. It's going to be an actual terrifying person that comes across the whole earth and tries to take over the whole earth. Not with tea and biscuits, but with actual death and martyrdom, fire and destruction. What Second Baruch describes as the conflagration of cities across the earth. He's burning cities across the earth. Like it's a massive 42 months of tribulation, unlike the world has ever experienced.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've never seen anything like that with the Roman Empire or the Brits or the Turks or, you know what I'm saying? The Byzantines, that's not even the Chinese, right? So we haven't seen anything like that in history. So this is where I've always struggled with, you've got the four beasts being described, and boy, that leopard sure does match Alexander the Great really, really, really well. But then it's like, boop, nothing left.
Yeah.
But here we go. To everyone that's already in the live chat putting in the 70 weeks prophecy, which we haven't gotten there yet, guys. Which tons of books have been written about that too.
Yes.
So the 70 weeks prophecies, what does it do? It talks about 70 weeks, and then it says in the 69th week it stops, and then the 70th week doesn't happen till much later. Which then that means there's a large gap between all these 69 weeks plus that final week. And then you're like, oh, there's a large gap in time in these weeks of prophecies. We know the week is approximately 7 years in scripture. And there's this massive gap in between that. That's not continuous weeks back to back.
Yeah.
Right? Is it possible that these kingdoms are not continuous kingdoms back to back?
It's possible because it's not telling us that they are. Like I said, it does tell us with the statue. It also tells us which other prophecy is the prophecy of Alexander the Great. Which book is that? Is that
going to be in
Daniel?
I think it's either
so there's an actual prophecy of.
It doesn't say my name.
No, but
people,
it's a timeline for us. Like it does give. This will happen, and then this will happen, and then this will happen. But those beasts aren't described in that way. They're not.
Right.
This beast comes first, then this beast comes second, then this. It's just counting that there's 4 of them.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, all right. Are you satisfied with the Septuagint? Do you see anything in here that?
No. I just was wondering if that.
It does say after this, another beast comes up.
Okay.
Okay. So it does give you a sense of succession between these 4 beasts.
Okay.
Okay. It's not just randomly saying there's 4 beasts and they have no.
Well, can you scroll up?
Relation. So the first was a lioness.
There came up 4 beasts out of the gray sea. Yeah, but see, he's saying there came up 4. Whatever. I don't think we'll figure out the answer.
Yeah. So again, tons of it's a deep prophecy. The tons of we're talking about one of the smartest men in the kingdom of Babylon, the ancient day, who was gifted by God for dreams and interpretations. And boy, did he have a doozy.
Yeah. Oh, this is the one.
Yes.
This is out. Okay.
Yes. All right. Are we any more commentary in chapter 7?
No, I think an hour is probably good.
Okay. Chapter 8, in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar. So we're still within this king, even though we know that he's going to get taken over. So a vision appeared to me, Daniel, subsequent to the one that had appeared to me earlier. And in the vision, I saw myself in the citadel of Susa in the province of Elam. I saw in this vision that I was beside the Ule Canal. And then I lifted up my eyes and saw a ram with 2 horns standing beside the canal. The horns were large, but one was larger than the other, and the longer one grew up later. I saw the ram charging toward the west and the north and the south. No animal could stand against him, and there was no deliverance from his power. He did as he pleased and became great. As I was contemplating all this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between his eyes came up out of the west, crossing the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground. He came toward the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and rushed at him with furious power. I saw him approach the ram in a rage against him, and he struck the ram and shattered his 2 horns. The ram was powerless to stand against him, and the goat threw him to the ground and trampled him, and no one could deliver the ram from his power. Thus the goat became very great, but at the height of his power, his large horn was broken off, and 4 prominent horns came up in his place, pointing toward the 4 winds of heaven. From one of these horns, a little horn emerged and grew extensively toward the south and the east and toward the beautiful land. It grew as high as the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the earth and trampled them. And it magnified itself even to the prince of the hosts. It removed his daily sacrifice and overthrew the place of his sanctuary. And in the rebellion, and the host and the daily sacrifice were given over to the horn, and it flung truth to the ground and prospered in whatever it did. Then I heard a holy one speaking. Another holy one said to him, how long until the fulfillment of the vision of the daily sacrifice, the rebellion that causes desolation, and the surrender of the sanctuary and of the host to be trampled? And he said to me, it will take 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be properly restored. Well, while I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, there stood before me one having the appearance of man. And I heard the voice of a man calling from between the banks of the Ulai, Gabriel, explain the vision to this man. As he came near to where I stood, I was terrified and I fell face down. Son of man, he said to me. So now Daniel is being referred to as the Son of Man.
Yeah.
This is a commentary I was going to make on the last chapter, but we got kind of off into other things. A lot of people struggle with the Son of Man being Christ, being referenced as not realizing that it's not just an epithet for the Messiah.
Right.
It's for prophets.
Yeah.
And we see Ezekiel being called Son of Man, Daniel, Son of Man, and Enoch being called Son of Man. Right. So this is where a lot of them will say, oh, how dare first Enoch call Enoch the Son of Man? That's just for Christ Jesus.
Do you guys not read Daniel and Ezekiel? What is wrong with you people?
So just another thing. It's just a title that many of the prophets were spoken of by for some reason. I don't understand its origin. I've never heard a good explanation for it, but it's synonymous with prophets. Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision concerns the time of the end. And while he was speaking with me, I fell into a deep sleep with my face to the ground. Then he touched me, helped me to my feet, and said, behold, I will make known to you what will happen in the latter time of wrath, because it concerns the appointed time of the end. The 2-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat represents the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes is the first king. The 4 horns that replace the broken one represent 4 kingdoms that will rise from that nation, but will not have the same power. In the latter part of their reign, when the rebellion has reached its full measure, an insolent king skilled in intrigue will come to the throne. His power will be great, but it will not be his own. He will cause terrible destruction and succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy the mighty man along with the holy people. Through his craft and by his hand, he will cause deceit to prosper. In his own mind, he will make himself great. In a time of peace, he will destroy many, and he will even stand against the prince of princes. Yet he will be broken off, but not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and the mornings that has been spoken is true. Now you must seal up the vision, for it concerns the distant future. I, Daniel, was exhausted and lay ill for days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was confounded by the vision. It was beyond understanding.
You said it, brother.
Right?
You said it, Daniel.
But yet books are written saying, well, we got this all.
It's so infuriating to me how many sermons I listened to as a new Christian that talked about the 70 weeks and these prophecies and Daniel 7. And how many times I was made to, think they could calculate, when the return will be because of these. And really, it's all just such nonsense. I mean, even Daniel is saying this is beyond understanding, and he's the most wise guy in the whole world at this point in time, basically.
Yeah, he's not in this moment. He doesn't seem like he's given the interpretation, but we're going to read later. He's remember, he isn't existing in 500 BC. Okay?
Yeah.
Alexander the Great doesn't come on until 3 to 200 BC, right?
Okay, so that's the distant future it's talking about.
Yeah, well, not just that, but there's other things that talks about the time of the end. So there's multiple prophecies in here as well.
Okay.
All
right.
So from the top, this right here is completely separate from all the other prophecies. This right here. So this is what people have assumed to be this is the time from when the daily sacrifice was discontinued, when the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To the point when it's being restored in the days of Ezra, 70 years later.
Oh, okay. So this isn't about 70 AD destruction. This is about
just
Babylonian
this little
destruction?
part. Just this little part, right? Remember, The prophecies that we see in Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, they're not all chronological. They're not
I
all subsequent to each other.
totally kind of it slipped my mind
Right.
that they still are in that point in history where they actually go back at a later time.
What?
They
Oh,
go
yes.
they go back, they
return.
rebuild the temple.
Yes, this
So
is
I kind of
before.
was reading this as a time of Christ
Okay.
and that destruction of that temple. But you're thinking this is the first?
I'm giving you what different people have tried to interpret. So I
Okay.
think 2300 evenings and mornings, to my understanding, because there's 365, 364, but days in a year.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's going to be divided into 2300. So some people say, oh, it's just 7 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So is that where these people get the 7-year prophecy thing? Did they talk about every couple of years when there's another peace agreement? Oh no, the 7 years has begun again.
Yeah. Well, some people think this could be, getting close to the end of the 70 years because we're not given timelines.
Oh no, I'm not talking about 70 years. I said 7 years. There's always
listen, babe. Listen what I'm about to say though. I'm addressing what you're saying, but I'm trying to clarify. Just hear me out for a minute. What have we read so far in the book of Daniel? There's what we talked about in the first few chapters. There's Nebuchadnezzar 1 and 2. Okay. We're not told timelines. This is my complaint for the last several weeks. We're not told timelines as far as how long those kings lived and when Daniel showed up. Okay. We know that there was a 20-year time of exile and 3 different supposed deportations of the southern house over 20 different years. We assume Daniel comes along under the first deportation. Okay. So out of 70 years, if he comes along into the first and it doesn't even complete until 20 years later, that means once all the southern house is deported, there's only 50 years left out of the 70. Okay. We don't know. We're not given a timeline in the book of Daniel for how long Nebuchadnezzar the first or second reigned. Okay. And now Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar the first, has been reigning, and we're told it's his 3rd year. But we don't know how deep into that 70 years this is. Nebuchadnezzar the second could have reigned for 30 years. Nebuchadnezzar the first could have reigned for 40 years. Right? Well, that would be a total of 70. But as far as when they went over into exile would be 70 years.
Okay.
So all I'm trying to say is some people think that this is the last 7 years being mentioned of the exile. Because after 2300 more evenings and mornings, the sanctuary will be restored.
Okay.
Some people think this is just how, again, trying to calculate that is tough because we don't know all those dates that I just tried to allude to, but don't have definitions for.
I mean, but we do have a date for when that second temple was rebuilt, right? So isn't that a time qualifier?
We have an estimation for that time period. But remember, they didn't even get to finish the temple during the entire reign of Cyrus. Remember, they went back over, they laid the foundation, the Sumerians were given a problem.
I hear you on that. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to clarify in my mind that this passage that so many people apply to today is actually possibly referring to actually the second temple that was built.
No, baby. I'm trying to, yes. The restoration in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah of the second temple.
Yeah, no,
not everybody applies this to today. That's why I'm trying to go through this lengthy explanation for you. Not everybody applies this prophecy today. I'm trying to explain to you that these horns, the goat, and all this stuff up here is separate from this particular prophecy here.
Yeah, I understood that when you started the whole conversation about it.
And so, no, not everybody believes this particular highlighted prophecy has to do with today or even the time of Christ. Many people think it had to do with the days of Ezra and Nehemiah.
Okay.
Which would have possibly been just 7 years away at this point in Daniel's lifespan. Okay. So, yes, I get it.
That makes sense to me. That makes more sense than applying it today or to Antiochus. Because don't people, with the rebellion that causes desolation, a lot of people who think that happened in the past, they refer to Antiochus.
Again, why I keep trying to stress this is a separate prophecy up here.
I understand that. Because, I'm not asking about that prophecy.
Yes,
I'm asking about that one that's separate.
Because, yes, I tend to lean towards this being the description of the Medes and Persians who took over. And then the goat that comes through from Greece, the king of Greece, is Alexander.
Right.
And then his four generals try to take over, but it's not that great. And then another guy comes up, which would be Antiochus, because he is a part of the 4 generals who comes out of the Seleucids' rule. and then he's the one who does all this nasty work here.
That makes sense.
Okay. That's
makes sense
what
to
I
me.
lean towards, as far as, because since it's all very vague and we're not giving like specific names
Yeah.
and dates. Okay. And then some people say, oh, he cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars and trampled them, meaning how he would change some of the objects of worship within the Greek Empire away from the typical pantheon and started to make himself an object of worship. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So this is just some of this language. You also see this concept of this language in Revelation 12 with the dragon's tail sweeps the stars out of the sky and that kind of stuff. So it's just an interesting, that's why these chapters are argued about emphatically. Because people just struggle with the guesswork, because there's no specific names and dates given throughout history.
You know, there's no better reason to not write books about this stuff and make conclusions about it and like get people naming dates. And every time there's something happens in Israel regarding some peace agreement, people come into my inbox asking, is the 7 years starting?
Right.
And
Right.
I'm like, can you tell me what 7 years you're talking about? Can you go get me the verse that you're referring to? And they never can, because they, it's like they're just hearing these things in sermons and just, vague references to the book of Daniel. But yeah. And then, when they realize, you know what, I don't know what verse I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, see, don't worry so much. You remember, 2020, people were saying that was the peace agreement that was going to start 7 years. So, don't let the news dictate your theology.
Right. Definitely don't. So there is just, there's a lot here, but remember, this vision is happening in the 3rd year of Belshazzar. So Darius hasn't even taken over yet. The Medes and the Persians haven't even taken over Belshazzar yet.
Right.
So the book of Daniel, just like we were talking about with the book of Ezekiel in our personal readings, the book of Daniel is not written chronologically.
Yeah.
And that throws a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. It's not been collated, I should say, chronologically.
Right.
It's different. Right. And because a lot of people would say, the ancient world, they didn't think like we think when it comes to writing books.
Maybe
they didn't think everything had to be chronological, because they thought like, oh, everyone's going to know who Belshazzar is.
Yeah.
So I'll just start this next chapter and say, in the 3rd year of Belshazzar's reign, and everyone's going to know that I'm not talking about the next guy.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the guy 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? But in modernity, we don't know history.
Yeah.
The average person fails history.
Yeah.
So it confuses people. It does. It confuses people. I think it's hilarious, though, that this vision caused him physical exhaustion. Like he's like, ugh, it took it out of me.
Yeah.
It affected his physical body.
Yeah.
And he's just having a vision and a dream at night. And he's like, oh, I'm sick now. and he's like, he called out of work for days, which is wild to me. Like, how do you explain that to the king? Where's Daniel? I haven't seen him in like 3 or 4 days. He had this vision again, and he just took a lot out of him.
In the ancient world, I think people would have understood.
Yeah, but
that might have been one of the things on the list of excused absences.
Yeah, but Belshazzar, as we read from chapter 5,
I'm just joking, baby.
No, I get it. I'm adding to the banter, if I will. But Belshazzar in chapter 5, he doesn't even know who Daniel is.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's interesting that he's still doing the king's business, but the king doesn't really know who he is. Can't really think about him in a critical moment where he needs his advisor or one of his wise men. And he's, in the meantime, he's still having visions, but he's not sharing these visions with the king.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, probably a wise thing, I would imagine, with the volatility of these kings.
Well, he's not being directed to go give him this vision, know, and it's not a vision given to the king where the king now has to seek out Daniel, like it happened with Nebuchadnezzar. So yeah, these definitely seem to be for Daniel to seal up for people in the future.
Yeah, beyond his understanding at the time. Right.
No, I think we should wait till next week, because that's going to be another hour of commentary. Yeah. That's one of the other big ones that's like thrown around in prophecy circles.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't know like the next 300-400 years of the kings that are going to come and go, then a prophecy like that, it's hard to make any sense of it.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are 2,500 years past with an extensive history of all the different kingdoms and everything. And we're still like trying to plug and play.
Yeah.
Be like, wait, okay, it does kind of fit this guy the most. And so Yeah, he definitely doesn't understand it if it hasn't even happened yet. But this is one of the incredible apologists' points for the validity of Scripture above any other holy text,
Yeah.
where Daniel is prophesying about things that you can look and go, wait, there
Yeah.
was a king in Greece who
Mhm.
took over the Persians
Mhm.
and took the Babylonian Empire from the Persians, and he did hand it off to 4 generals.
Yeah.
That's never happened ever in history. He's the only person who took over an empire with incredible speed and then fell mysteriously ill and then was taken, gave up his kingdom and divided into 4. Like, that was chaos.
Yeah.
It was chaos when it happened.
Yeah.
And it's chaos historically looking back. No other emperor ever did anything like that. You just had someone succeed him.
Yeah.
And so this was a very unique qualifier for Alexander the Great divvying up the empire on his deathbed
Mhm.
to his 4
Mhm.
generals who are supposedly in the room, according to historians. And I think he died in India when this happened.
Hmm.
And so, because he was on his latest conquest, trying to push as deep into India as he could. So this is like no transition of power has ever been qualified like that. It's only with Alexander the Great.
Hmm.
So that's why so many people think, and he was the king of Greece, and he was the first king of Greece, literally not even from Greece, but from Macedonia, which is why they called him the Macedonian.
Hmm.
And it was kind of an interesting, like, all these unique things about Alexander the Great, that prophecy in Scripture, this Hebrew scriptures from this Hebrew prophet in exile in the land of Babylon, is prophesying this stuff 300-400 years before it happens.
Yeah.
This is one of the incredible testimonies to the divine inspiration of Scripture. Of, like, this is people, secular historians and historians in general, they do not argue that this is the book of Daniel.
Yeah, they that's one thing that I think is such a shame about what's happening in the truther crowd right now, with people being told to just disregard history completely. It's just all fake, it's all a lie, it's all fake and gay, you know. And it's like there's so much that even in the secular world confirms events that happen in the scriptures and make it's considered a historical book. Like, it's considered an actual historical reference. Like, it's not to true secular scholars, actual people who just will be honest about the text. They acknowledge, yeah, there's supernatural stuff going on in this book, but it's a historical reference. We include it in, other things we use to reference recorded history because they consider it recorded history. So the Bible itself is recorded history.
Yeah.
If we can't trust any history, then gosh, we got to throw our Bibles out, guys.
Mhm.
This is like wild to me to just be,
It's irresponsible. It's intellectually irresponsible.
It doesn't play the tape all the way through.
No,
because I don't think a lot of you guys realize you have to throw the Bible out if all of history is fake, because the Bible is historical.
yes, it smuggles in an anti-biblical narrative.
Yes.
Right. And that's why the book of Daniel is so powerful within his biblical apology.
Yeah.
Because it is a powerful tool to show here's written record of history that correlates with even the secular peoples and even in these nations and their history of their kings and ancient empires.
Yeah.
And the transitions of powers match up. And here is just a guy saying, I lived through all this stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, I had prophecies about what was going to happen even after I die. And then those came true as well. And so, like, we don't have, we're told in Genesis 20 verse 7 that Abraham was a prophet. And Abraham was shown things of the future that would take place. But yet we see, like, Abraham was told, like, oh, in 400 years, I'll take your descendants out of oppression into the land of the Amorites. And then we see, oh, that's a prophecy that came true.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Abraham was venerated as a prophet.
Yeah.
Right. But that's just one thing to which it happens within the narrative of his descendants, chronicled by his descendants.
Right.
See how people can say that's biased, right? Oh, that's just part of the story.
Yeah.
They just wrote that in
Yeah.
to give it more validity.
Yeah.
Whereas this is validated by all the nations surrounding
Yeah.
Israel,
Yeah.
of the king's list and the transitions of power, and how literally they're doing like documentary after documentary on History Channel about Alexander the Great and how amazing he was.
Yeah.
They still call him the Great. Like,
Yeah.
They supposedly they recently found his tomb. I don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly it was like this gold sarcophagus of Alexander the Great and how amazing of a discovery it was on this stuff. So, like, it like, this book validates as a prophetic divine inspiration of God moving through his prophets, in the land of the most powerful empire of the time on the earth, and prophesying about the second coming of Christ, the dissension of the tabernacle of the Almighty, the Most High, the last oppressive empire to try to destroy the earth and its people and persecute people that will be removed at the second coming of Christ. All this stuff like that is put into these visions and these dreams and these prophecies is powerful testimony to not just the validity of Daniel being a real person, but that his actual visions have validity.
Yeah.
Because half of them have already been proven true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why would I disbelieve the other half?
Yeah.
They talk about the second coming of Christ. You know what I mean? So it is very powerful. It is a very powerful apologist tool for the validity of Scripture and putting your faith in this book being something special.
Yeah.
Like I try to remind people that First Enoch, even chapter 107, even already prophesied about the Bibles we have today, that he knew a mystery, that books of holiness and righteousness would be given to the saints and be a cause of great joy and be spread in multiple languages. Like that, we're living in the prophecy of Enoch 107, right? Or I think it's Enoch 104 right now.
Which is like, even if they were right and Enoch was just some random book that someone decided to write in like a little before the first century,
that's crazy.
Prophecy's been fulfilled from that false book.
Yeah, that's crazy, because that's a guess nobody would have guessed.
Yeah.
That
no, how could they have ever had any concept that people could have books on the scale that we have them today? Right. There's just,
Yeah, because back then it was just like, oh, those are the Jewish scriptures. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and only certain scribes had access to them because there was no such thing as a printing press. So it wasn't even a concept in people's minds.
Yeah. And
that people could have their own copies of things.
You couldn't scribe fast enough.
No.
To have people in all of these countries and different nations and tongues.
No, there's no way.
Be able to be a source of joy for all the saints. So it's very interesting prophecies that we're living in.
Yeah.
We're living in them. I know people they really get thrown because of like these prophecies that we read, seeming gap in between the first three beasts introduced and the fourth beast. The fourth beast clearly being the one at the time of the end, like it says, when the Most High visits the earth and the Son of Man destroys him and the kingdom is given over to the saints.
Yeah.
Right. We see all those things have not happened yet.
Yeah.
But then they look in history and they go, man, that leopard, there's no other qualifier than Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And then they're like, man, that's like 2,300 years ago. What is this time period that we're in now? You know what I mean? And I would say it's the time of the Gentiles.
Yeah, you're right.
As prophesied. And it gives the Father, whom his Son is now high priest over the covenant, over the church, firstborn over the ecclesia, Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. And now he has, through the Holy Spirit, to go out and just get as many people as possible throughout all the Gentiles, throughout all the nations. Now that the obstinate people that collated within that land had been dispersed, and he's not dealing with the defunct priesthood anymore and the temple and all that. It's like, okay, cracks his knuckles. And he's like, all right, we're mobile now. So let's just go into all the countries and pick and pluck as much as we can. And this is why I think it's considered the time of the Gentiles. And this is why he's building his resurrected sons and daughters for the future at a rapid pace throughout history.
Yeah.
Right? Unencumbered and unhindered by, oh, there's a central point of worship and everyone makes a big deal about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what does the enemy want to do? He wants to make a central point of worship and make everybody argue and fight over that through Zionism. You know what I'm saying? So like it's interesting, whereas Christ is already in a perfect position to where he can just go through the gifts of the Spirit and convert as many people that are willing, right? Throughout all the nations. And they're not encumbered or hindered in their minds culturally to think, oh, I've got to travel to Jerusalem now. They can just serve him out the rest of their days wherever they live across the face of the earth. And it's kind of an interesting narrative, right? As opposed to now the Israel that was centralized, that was supposed to be a light to the nations, now has been decentralized.
Yeah.
All the crypto people know I'm talking about. Decentralized is the best. And now you can be decentralized and you can be a light everywhere across the face of the earth for the namesake of the God of Israel. And so it's just a beautiful strategy, if you will.
Absolutely.
That the Son is, gets to commandeer this process, but he still has not come upon the earth and all nations are not actively serving him.
Right. It would make sense that there would need to be a much longer time period for that scattering to be happening throughout to get to all corners of the earth. It would take a long time for that to happen. So there would need to be a lot of years in
That's right.
between.
And this is where Yahweh says, he talks about the people his people that get scattered, but he's going to still use them to be a light
Yeah.
to where they're scattered.
Yeah.
And we see this example like with Daniel,
Yeah.
right? We see this example with other people that are scattered, that we realize, oh, wait a minute, the apostles themselves were able to travel to all these other countries to try to reach not just the scattered brethren, but
Yeah.
also
Yes.
the Gentiles
Yeah.
in their area as well.
Mhm.
So it became this incredible. And then those scattered brethren who then heard about Christ and believed, they didn't try to move back to Jerusalem,
Right.
where the main apostles were. They stayed in their scattered lands,
Yeah.
and now had Jesus to talk about
Mhm.
and explain as a part of the fulfillment of the kingdom,
Yeah.
the kingdom to come. So it's a unique strategy. The Father's like, oh, you think you won, Satan, because you scattered my people? I just got deeper into your territory.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like,
Look,
you didn't accomplish anything. You just helped me out.
I've been trying to help people see, instead of choosing to view the history of Christianity in a just 100% negative light, there's a whole other perspective of that history that we can see where God has worked through those people to crush public idolatry. The
Mhm.
reason the Torah crowd doesn't understand how horrific it is to accuse Christians of doing idolatry on Christmas or Easter is because Christendom over time outlawed all those practices. I mean, we can get into the problems with their doctrine all we want, but we can look at the fruit of Christendom and see they had a good understanding of things that were wrong about pagans and paganism and
Mhm.
pagan religion. And they had what, we can all bemoan, that unholy alliance between government and Christianity. Sure. We could also look at it as a big blessing for the Western world, that Christianity was able to come to power and Christian kings were able to make law and outlaw certain behaviors. So, I have had such a weight lifted off my chest over the last few years with God helping me, calm down on my condemnation and look at the nuance and look at the big picture and be like, Lindsay, it wasn't all bad. The remnant of my people, the people who had my spirit in them, no matter what their level of understanding was about Sabbath and, how to eat, they had understanding on all these other laws. Like, Sean and I did a post. I was telling Sean the other day, I did a post about usury, and I didn't realize that the Catholic Church completely outlawed usury for 1,000 years because of what the scripture said about usury. The church has historically interpreted the story of Ham and Noah to be how Sean and I see it, where this wasn't Ham doing something sexual with his mother. This was Ham dishonoring his father. The church had the understanding that honor your father and mother. Ham did not honor his father. That's what went wrong. So like they didn't create all these weird, disgusting theories about what really happened because they had the understanding of honor your mother and father. So they didn't have perfect understanding over time, but they had some good understanding. And, the whole reason that I always say this, the reason we're not all speaking Arabic right now, is because Christianity stood up against the Islamic caliphates. Christianity has stood up historically against communism.
Yeah.
So, we got, I just want to encourage people to take a step back. If you've just been walking around just full on stomping in condemnation against Christianity and the whole history of the Catholics and the Orthodox, it's all horrible, it's all wrong, I would encourage you to take a step back from that attitude and that heart and ask God to show you what I asked him to show me. Help me see them through your eyes is what I started praying, because I understood there's clearly true believers throughout all the last 200 years. I don't believe there just were no true believers until Torah people started waking up in the 2000s.
Right.
You'll never convince me of that.
Well, here's what the modern day Torah crowd needs to learn is that lesson we read that Nebuchadnezzar needed to learn in chapter 4. That until you acknowledge the Most High rules over the kingdoms of man and gives them to whom he wishes.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got to come to grips with that. We got to come to a certain, I think that there's a spiritual practice that's talked about in all the 12-step programs, but I never see it talked about in Christianity. And I feel like specifically for the Torah crowd, it would be helpful for us to learn the spiritual practice of acceptance. I feel like there are so many things that when we come into the Torah walk and we like have that veil kind of lifted and we see, the mask drops, and we see all the problems with things, it really puts us into this just total mindset of no longer being able to see the good in things. Like all we can see is the evil in things. And so what I was asking the Father was, teach me how you see them. Show me Christianity and the people in the churches through your eyes. Teach me how to love them like you love them. And he has so done that for me that I love the fact that I no longer am walking around with this big weight of fear, feeling like, oh my gosh, everybody in these churches, they've all been doomed this whole time. They're still doomed until they start doing the Sabbath. Oh, it's just so horrible. The whole system is so evil. That is a heavy mental weight to walk around with, guys. I don't think you realize what a weight it is until it's lifted from you and you start looking with the actual heart of love and mercy and nuance and understanding and grace that the Father looks at the last 2,000 years of his people with, and you start to see, okay, Christianity is not so bad. It's definitely the best option, in my opinion, of all the options we could have had of empires and political powers that could have taken over the last 2,000 years. I'm okay with the fact that it was Christianity.
Yeah, no, the world's a blessed for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise we'd still be in absolute
just totally
chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Even the wonders of, because I do think we benefit from a lot of things with the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening and the way politics changed and the way government started to change in the 1700s and the country that we're living in. Even with that, it's like
it's allowed for the greatest evangelistic work across the earth.
For us to be able, we have so many freedoms in America for our specific religion of Christianity. It's actually a really good thing. So yeah, I don't know. We can choose to look at we can be Debbie Downers and negative Nancys, or we can be positive Pauls. We can look at all the good things that have come from Christianity because make no mistake, there have been many good things that have come from Christianity. So I'm off my soapbox. I actually really need to run to the restroom.
All right.
I will be right back.
Miss Marcia, thank you so much for the gift of memberships. I really appreciate that. And everyone, if you receive the gift of membership, just remember that we can't control who gets them. So you just randomly by YouTube, you were allotted one. But you should have access to all of our exclusive member content, which is like, 100 plus hours of extra videos. So hopefully you enjoy those. I really appreciate that. Lemire 1, no, I have not read the Encyclopedia Diaspora, so I'm not familiar with it. Torah 42, you're asking about Judges 13 through 16, and we don't have any specific teaching on it. If you have a specific question about something in those chapters, otherwise I have no clue what you're asking about. And that's, it's four large chapters. So just try to put together a good question about some of those, and I'll do my best to address it. All right. If you do have a question, put it in all capitalization. I'll do my best to try to get to it. Next level, of course, yeah. Son of man is the word Adam in Hebrew. Son of man can just mean son of Adam, but at the same time, it's not spoken of by everybody. So when angels are showing up calling a prophet of God son of man, that's kind of a unique qualifier, right? They're, versus like you don't see the angels of God show up and talk to non-prophets calling them that. And then when being prophesied about significant characters like Christ, he was being called the Son of Man in prophecy, as opposed to like, then if it would be very confusing if that specific term was just given to anybody, right? Whereas the overall context of the Son of Man being prophesied for Christ to come in the days of Daniel, we also see 100 years before in the days of Isaiah, you see the Christ being prophesied as the anointed one and the Messiah. And so the servants, what I mean? And the high priest. So it's kind of interesting that to me, if they only understood it to just be a son of Adam, it could be very vague and confusing. versus, oh, we know it's talking about a significant person, a prophet. Kind of like when John the Baptist's disciples went to Jesus' disciples with the question of, are you the prophet? Right? The big prophet they expected to come. So it's kind of a, I think there's some significant tie in there to someone called a prophet as well. All right, guys. If you have any questions about some of the chapters we talked about today, if you have a Bible question in general, I suppose you can put them in the live chat. Be sure that you either use all caps or write the word question in all caps to begin. That way, we kind of get an opportunity to see it quickly within the live chat, and it doesn't get lost. Okay. I don't see any other questions coming in. Okay. Jesus Serrano 3673 is asking about Jasher. If you want to go to our playlist, Honor of Kings, and go to season 4, the first episode of season 4, we do a review. We kind of have like a roundtable of contributors, and we do a review on the book of Jasher. And so we do not believe it's legit, but we give our reasoning for that in that episode. So go to season 4 under our playlists tab on YouTube here, season 4 of Honor of Kings, episode 1, and we do a breakdown for you. Okay, Scott with 1T is asking, can you recommend a good hard copy translation of the Apocrypha of Abraham and Second Baruch? I'm not a fan of digital. Thank you for all you do, brother. Unfortunately, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if there's a good hard copy of those books. I think you can only find them in paperback on Amazon. I'm not sure of any other booksellers that specialize in those deep cut pseudo apocryphal books. So I apologize. All right. David Collins is asking, do you believe that the kingdom like never before phrase could be an AI run government? I mean, I think there's going to be AI involved in the second beast, and as he creates the image of the first beast that goes throughout the earth, forcing people to worship or killing them, I think there's AI involved in the tech that's used within that kingdom, but I don't think it's like the highlights, if I should put it like that. It's not the central focus. It's just a tool within their machinations of rule and deception over people. But I don't think it's like just an AI fabricated thing. I think it's an actual literal Apollyon who comes up out of the earth in Revelation 9, and there's the literal second beast that's with him, whom I believe is, according to Scripture, be the return of Nergal, the false god Nergal that was worshipped in ancient days, under the authority of a real character, Satan, the dragon, a real rebellious angel. So they may use AI within their deception, but it's not the focus of their kingdom. All right, seeing Lenny's asking, is it implied or stated somewhere that in prophecy that 42 months is actually years? Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Encyclopedia of
should. I don't want to.
I would like to ask.
So real quick, do you have a link or a resource to the one that you think of when you're talking about this? We're not promoting that people buy this book. We don't know what this is.
I just wanted to look it up, but it pulls up a bunch of different. And there's multiple diasporas that people have been tracking, so it pulls up multiple diasporas. So if you could drop a link for me, I'm just interested in looking at the book. I'm not really invested in
right.
Figuring out people's identities. I haven't heard of that, so I'm just interested in it. That apparently people have been tracking that.
For the most part. If you guys have any questions, put them in all caps, and we'll be glad to try to get to them as quickly or as thoroughly as possible.
Oh, I'm getting to that yawning part of the day. Not a lot of questions today, although I haven't really. We had the Bible app over the chat basically the whole time, so normally I see stuff throughout the show.
I can't think of any. If I've done one, I can't think of one right now. I know that I've included them in I've included breakdowns of Ezekiel 38 and 39 in my Gospel of the Kingdom Part 1 and 2, which is in our beginners playlist. But I haven't done any recent videos, I don't think, on that. We've just talked about it in some of our Q&As, but not an actual video breakdown. I think that the most efficient video breakdown you might find is in the Gospel of the Kingdom Part 1 and 2, I think. All right, Singing Lynn is asking, if allowed, how can I discern what's meant to be literal and what isn't? Well, so what we try to talk about as far as finding context is you look up the definitions of words. You look for the context of the passage, which will tell you, oh, by the way, this is a vision, right? And this isn't, and usually the visions come with an interpretation of what was said. So this is why we try to encourage people in the book of Revelation, which people want to just hand wave dismiss as all interpretive and non-literal, which is grossly irresponsible reading comprehension. Within that book itself, the angel says to John, oh, by the way, do you remember that one thing you saw? Here's the interpretation. So because it was something that he thought needed to be expounded upon for John's edification and understanding, and the reader, obviously. Whereas other things are just stated expecting that you believe it. So this requires, and this is not a quick answer, sister. This is not a popular answer. This requires study. So this requires us to actually dig in and go, okay, I need to read the whole book, or I need to read all the chapters surrounding this prophecy or this something, right? And it just requires study. And then you start to pick up on, oh, wait, there are analogies, there's allegories, there's metaphors, there's epithets, right? So there's idioms, there's different things that are spoken of, different labels and titles that are spoken of people. It's not always, it depends on what you're talking about. I'm giving you, obviously, your question is super vague. So I'm giving you a super vague answer that's trying to encompass everything I talk about in our 10 easy ways to find context video that we've already published a few years ago. So you're welcome to go check that out if you like, as far as finding context in 10 easy ways. But I grant that there are other places in scripture where it does help to know a little bit of history. It does help to know, okay, they use the word King David as a moniker, or they use the word King Darius 1 and 2 as a moniker. There wasn't two people named Darius. In fact, usually the king that was called Darius wasn't even his real name anyway. He took on the moniker of Darius because that was the king he wanted to emulate, if you will, because the previous Darius was such a great success, right? So that comes with just becoming familiar with some supplementary history outside of the Bible pertaining to the time period of the Bible.
Also, just in terms of like metaphor versus literal, just in general, not even in visions and prophecies, but like especially in references to Yeshua, We can know what can be literal and what can be physical, also based on the law. So people who think certain passages are super tough and they don't know how to reconcile them, like Yeshua talking about eating his flesh and drinking his blood. Well, we know what the law forbids. So we know it can't be literal what he's saying. We know the law forbids human sacrifice, and there's no such thing as bringing a human to the priest to sacrifice for atonement. So we know that his sacrifice is metaphorical. So you can also use the law itself as your lens of interpretation with things that come, especially in the New Testament, regarding Yeshua himself and how the apostles and the gospel writers actually spoke about him in these metaphorical terms based on imagery from the law. But we know most of it cannot be literal because of what the law says is and isn't allowed. So that's another way you can discern.
Okay. We got Scott with one T's asking, do you know if Daniel mentioned in Ezra 8:2 and 8:29, 8:2 and 8:29 is the same Daniel that we're reading about here? It's the same Daniel 8:29. I don't see Daniel's name mentioned in 8:29, but I do see it in 8:2. I don't personally know. I would have to do like a genealogical timeline as far as the people that are coming out. I'd have to do more study on that. I do know that the commentators, historical commentators on that passage, don't believe it's the same Daniel. But I would have to. Again, we're not given the date of Daniel's death. It would be weird to me to just mention Daniel comes out with Esther or with Ezra, and returns to the land and not really explaining that this is the Daniel.
Yeah.
It'd be weird to me, but hey, you never know. So
I mean, isn't there a part where Job is mentioned, but they don't clarify it's the Job?
In Genesis 36, it's actually by his different name, Jobab.
Yeah.
Jobab. Yeah. Well, it says he's one of the chiefs of Edom. So it's going through a king's list.
Yeah, I hear you on that. But like, we didn't, remember that moment you realize, oh, that's Job.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd have to do further research. I don't have a great answer for you. I'm sorry. But thank you for the question. All right. Singa is asking about, do I agree the statue in Daniel is describing Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome? I'm guessing he's speaking about chapter 2, like we read. And I mean, it's plausible, but again, I just don't know. It's plausible. Again, another chapter in Daniel that 100 books have been written about, 100 different interpretations about the statue and the feet, the iron mixed with clay.
It's really the feet that we're kind of more not sure about, because I'm pretty sure we know Medo-Persia came right after Babylon. We know Greece came after that. So we do know, but in terms of the feet, that's the one. I mean, we know Rome comes after Greece, but in terms of that iron mixed with clay and what because the iron, aren't the calves of iron and then the feet are iron and clay?
I think so.
So there's a spot for Rome, but then there's a kingdom after it that's mixed with something that's the big one that everybody is trying to figure out.
This is why that statue is destroyed by the rock made without hands that comes down to the sky. This is the New Jerusalem, the kingdom of God, the second coming of Christ. This is where people mostly interpret that to be an end times prophecy that destroys the feet of the statue, and therefore you start to think, okay, wait a minute though. Is that Rome? How could that be Rome? Because is Rome still alive at the coming of Christ? And that's where all the books come about the revived Roman Empire. And who is it? Who's it going to be? Is it Russia? Is it Turkey? Is it Saudi Arabia?
Wasn't the Third Reich supposed to be?
Yeah.
Because that's what they're referring to as Reich, right? Wasn't Reich a callback to Rome?
I thought it just meant empire, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and
I don't
that's why
speak
they were
German.
the Third Reich, because they considered the Roman Empire the First Reich. I don't know what the Second Reich was, but yeah, there's some kind of sort of correlation with Rome and the Germans and Nazis and stuff. So I thought people at a certain point in history thought they were the feet of the.
So
Second.
again, it's hard to say, but at the same time, the base of a statue being its foundation, some people even think it's Revelation 18. It's the actual Babylonian Empire, not ruled, not like all of it's Babylonian Empire, but not one that's ruled by a specific name, as far as a specific country that's named in Scripture, but instead just the general foundational spiritual Satan's actual Babylonian Empire, who continually tries to mix his oppressive empire with mankind, and it never works, right? So there's just all types of interpretations, guys. But it does seem to be that the feet are destroyed, and whomever is ruling over those feet at the time, we see in Revelation, is the first beast under the authority of Satan.
Yeah.
So that's where I struggle with the whole Roman Empire interpretation, because
well, also
there's missing pieces to that.
there's also so many factors at play these days in terms of like who's really ruling who. Because if you look at history through certain lenses, you'll find whatever certain group you're looking to find ruling over everybody secretly in the, behind everything. You can find that in multiple groups. You can find that with papal Rome being, a power behind powers, but you can clearly also find that with the Zionists. The mask has been dropping like crazy lately, showing they're being power behind power. You also have straight up Babylonian Luciferians that are power behind the power. So it is kind of hard to settle on one specific group of powerful people, because there are many warring factions at the top of that pyramid. There isn't unity at the top there. So that's the other thing that's kind of hard about saying it's one group in particular, one kingdom, because we don't even operate from the concept of kingdoms anymore. Like, as a world, I don't look at America and say the kingdom of America. I say the nation of America. I say the nation of Great Britain.
This is why there's so much conspiracy about things like the G10 summit. And
the Bilderbergs and the Trilateral Commission, all those councils, but even within those councils, there's multiple different kinds of councils and meetings of, heads of state and powerful people. And and then that's also, we still tend to totally ignore a lot of countries that are big on the world stage when we talk about these things. China is a huge world power. Russia is a world power, I was going to say India, but they're just a huge country, not necessarily a huge world power. But there are other influential countries in this world. It's not just America, and it's not just the West. So I don't know. That's why it's hard for me to I've never felt comfortable saying one in particular group, because I've been such a conspiracy rabbit hole person, and I've gone down each rabbit hole of who really controls things behind the scenes. And there's multiple groups that seem to be involved in controlling things behind the scenes.
That is one of the conspiracy theories, by the way, is that there's feuds between the controlling groups.
Yeah. I find it to be a very believable theory.
Yeah.
Because Satan is not one who works well on unity. He has to force there's a reason he has to force it.
Yeah, the snake is constantly eating itself.
Yeah.
Skid Wister, brother, you have to kind of simplify your I don't understand the question. I apologize. So that might be the answer for you anyway. But I don't understand your question, brother. If you want to simplify that or try to reword it. Testing prophecy. Not really, bro. If you want to do a debate on God's law, or if you want to do a debate on I don't really know what your premise would be for Jeremiah 31.
It's a big chapter.
I don't even know what you think I think about Jeremiah 31. It's so vague, bro. You're gonna have to give me something to work with here as far as why this chapter. What do you think I believe about this chapter that you disagree with and want to debate on? But if you want to debate kingdom prophecies and break down your preterist, beliefs, we can go that route. Miss Marsh is asking, paradise is in Sheol, but also called the Garden of Eden. No, ma'am, we don't see a reference as Sheol ever being called paradise. Um, that's what modern Christianity has reinterpreted to think about the thief on the or Jesus' response to the thief on the cross when he says, "Today I promise you, today you'll be with me in paradise." They think he's talking about Sheol because Jesus goes to the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. But they're forgetting what the thief actually said, which is, "When you come into your kingdom, please remember me," which is paradise. That's according to Revelation 2 and Revelation 22. The word for um, the city or the garden that's called referenced as paradise is the word for garden. So it's I'm sorry, called the Sheol is not called the Garden of Eden. I just want to make sure I understand your question. So no, Sheol is the resting place of the souls, the disembodied souls, referenced in and by another name of Abraham's bosom, but that's only for the righteous. So it's generally just referenced as Sheol or Hades in Scripture. The Garden of Eden is what's translated in the Greek as paradise in the book of Revelation. So it's two separate concepts.
Did you see the part where she said some say it's still here but hidden?
Yes, that's
Okay, so don't you teach that the Garden of Eden was taken up in
yeah.
the firmament?
Yeah.
So wouldn't that be the answer to her question?
Eden could be hidden or taken up, question mark. Some say it's here but still hidden. So no, we don't believe that Eden, the garden, is still on the earth, hidden anywhere. We believe it is in the third firmament, as Paul talks about in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, 1 through 3. And it will descend in the future as the New Jerusalem. Yeah. Emmanuel, brother, I have no idea what causes them. I mean, I know that we live in an electrostatic atmosphere, but I don't have a clue what actually causes them. Thank you so much for the super YouTube user. No name, no face. Appreciate that. Have you heard of the Seven Mountain Mandate making waves in Christian nationalism? Some see it as a parallel to the Seven Rays promoted by Alice Bailey and the Lucy Trust. Some try to link it to Rev 17. I have heard of it, and I have heard about people. I haven't been able to research, but I've heard people criticizing it because they do believe it is actually some, occultic origins, if you will, and basically just trying to take over all forms of influence in the country through media, through education, through business, with a unified collective ideology, right? So that whoever's running that, would be a problem. I mean, I think we've already have that. We already kind of have that with the government now and all of its colluding affairs with other nations. So I don't know. I don't really. I'd have to do more research. I don't think it's linked to Revelation 17 personally, but do you have any thoughts on that? You heard anything deeper about
Oh no,
the Seven Mountain Mandate origins and possibly who's been promoting it?
I'm not familiar. I've heard the phrase, but I've never looked into it. I feel like Christian nationalism is like another boogeyman that's put out there to scare people in this country to think that Christianity is the religion to fear.
I mean, we already had Christian nationalism before the demographic went so askew with all immigration and atheism.
Yeah.
It was already a Christian nationalist country. Singing Lane's asking, Sean, do you have a photographic memory? Continue to be blown away by your depth of knowledge. I don't know if that's what it's called. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know the definitions of that term, so maybe.
I think it's like literally means that when a memory comes into your mind of a scripture, like you literally see it in your mind. That's what I've always assumed it meant. All the the kids I grew up with in my gifted and talented program who were like they were the ones that even us in the gifted and talented program were like, wow, he's way super smart. Both of those guys they said they had photographic memories and they could just look at their notes and then they would remember and then they'd be taking a test and they could just flip to that page on their notes.
Oh yeah.
And then they could answer every question on the test.
No.
Whereas I'm like taking that 3x5 note card and I'm, making tiny writing in art form.
No, I definitely don't have that. I think I have just an obsession.
Yeah.
And so therefore
it's his hobby.
You guys don't understand. Like I think about scripture all day long.
Yes.
Like to the point where it brings up annoyances with her and I because I can't focus sometimes. And she's trying to talk to me. And there's a part of my brain that's like, she's laying out some sort of calendar event. She's laying out some sort of list of things need to
An
be done.
itinerary.
She's telling you important stuff. You need to be paying attention. And then the other side of my brain is like, in Isaiah chapter 14, there's a word there that's, and I'm like, I'm constantly okay, just focus. She's saying something. You're going to get into trouble later. You need to remember this, whatever's happening. So I struggle with the constant obsession to know all points of clarity in scripture. And it's been an obsession for mine for a long time, to the point where my previous relationship, it became an issue before I even met her, because I didn't want to go out and do anything on a Friday or Thursday or Saturday night. I just want to sit home and read the Bible and talk about the Bible with people on Facebook and learn every single aspect of the Bible as much as possible. But I'm still learning, right? There's still a ton that needs to be learned and needs to be understood from every possible angle. Of every possible chapter. So what I've tried to do, though, over the years, and I think, I tried to do this with you several years ago, but it was a short-lived experiment. What I do personally, it's not photographic memory, and it's not quite a memory palace type thing, but I actually just try to memorize the chapters. Like, what does each chapter talk about?
The theme of the chapter, I should say.
Yeah.
He doesn't try to memorize word for word each chapter. But it's similar to the concept of the tree. He remembers the certain points of context in a certain chapter, and that's what helps him remember it to go back to it later, depending on what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's why when you see people mock me and they say, "Oh, kingdom out of context," he doesn't have context. It is everything within my walk with Christ to remain calm and to be like, this.
It's literally how I remember things.
That is literally how I even have the prowess of scripture that I do, is that my whole goal is to make sure to keep things in context, to find context, because it helps you create comprehension of everything going on in the story or chapter. And it's easy to remember, in my opinion. It becomes easier to remember because then I start being able to go, oh, then that links with this and this links with that. And then suddenly this massive voluminous writing becomes very small, and I can start to remember things much faster. And so, a long time ago, we tried to do that together on a Sabbath. We were going to go through the book of Exodus and just write down what each chapter is about,
Yeah.
And it was just like, she had never thought of doing it like that before. Right. So it was one of those deals where it was easy for me, but she was like, "Oh man, I don't know. I've not thought like this." Right. It's a different way of thinking, So to me, it helps me remember stuff and cross connect stuff faster, in my opinion. Hey, professing, just email me, bro. We can talk about it later.
Do each day so that I
Okay,
don't have a
that's fine.
ton to do on Thursday.
That's fine. That's fine.
Am I good? Are we muted?
Yeah, no, we'll wrap it up pretty quick. So that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys for being here. We're done for today. We're gonna get some things ready. Little man's about to wake up, and appreciate you guys being here. You guys are a blessing. Hopefully these are a blessing to you. And next week we got chapter 9, one of the most highly debated prophecy chapters in the Bible, I think.
Yes, and I think we should just plan to read the Septuagint
alongside
it like we did with Zechariah. Yeah, because I know that chapter definitely reads differently in the Septuagint. And that's one that's used all the time for eschatology fear-mongering.
Right. Yeah, that could be a fun thing to do. Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what we're doing. Thank you to everyone that supports us, whether through the different means below, Patreon, whatever different means that are suitable for you and the different options we have. It's a huge blessing to us. we're not Levites. We don't demand a tithe from you. We're not taking these things out of context
Right.
like church pastors and demanding that you tithe or whatever. It's just if you see value in what we're doing and you think it blesses you and others, and you want to support us and God puts it on your heart, there's ways for you to do that in the video description below.